Welcome back. You're listening to the Khyber Pass podcast, bringing you conversations with improvisers, musicians that have played at the Khyber Pass Cafe Thursday evening music concert series. This episode, we have Phil Hay. Phenomenal drummer. Was generous enough to sit down and share his history, his backstory, what happened to get him to sit behind a drum kit, to express himself, explore improvisation. I'm your host, Paul Metzger, and as always, this podcast is brought to you by the Khyber Pass Cafe, St. Paul, Minnesota. Authentic food from Afghanistan. But it's so much more than that. In German language, they have a term that does not translate well into English, and that is also difficult to pronounce. Gemütlichkeit. And it is trying to put a name to the feeling from being around people in a setting that brings deep enjoyment. A group together. The Khyber Pass offers that. The good feeling of being somewhere with other people who are like-minded in many ways. This week I have a short music clip of the concert featuring Phil Hay on drum set, Adam Lintz on bass, and yours truly on electric guitar. For me, it was a beautiful experience to be able to sit down with these two masters of the form and spend a little bit of time with Phil beforehand to get to know where he's at. So without further ado, I will present a sample of what was heard and move into the interview. I hope that you enjoy it. Phil, all right. So, I'm just going to get right into it. We'll keep it to like about 20 minutes. Is that going to be okay?
Whatever works for you, Paul.
That does work for me. Where did where were you as a kid, man? What were you before you were a drummer?
Boy,
You're like a kid, yeah?
Yeah, right. Wow, that's a great question. Um, I was a, I don't know. I think like I was like a normal kid, whatever that means. I liked school, so maybe that isn't so normal.
No.
But I did for a long time until I got a little older. I liked sports a lot. I liked playing baseball and basketball and football. And we were always, the main neighborhood I grew up in Philadelphia, there were tons of kids. You could just walk out the door and fall into, any number of games or a gang hanging out. I don't mean gang like a,
No,
like a street gang. I just mean a group of,
Yeah.
And there were a million kids. I was never a real leader. I was always like a good kind of second lieutenant type of guy. I would gravitate towards the real extroverted, outgoing kids and sort of hang around with them and be around them. And I know one of my teachers told my parents that they wished I would show more like initiative, leadership qualities instead of being a hanger. That was Miss Capinetti in 5th grade.
Yeah, fuck her.
Yeah, right. What does she know? Where does she know?
Yeah, exactly. Most likely dead.
Yeah, remember, these days. It's a long time ago. And that's the problem, is it was a long time ago, right?
Well, so what's happening then? Where do you first get the inkling about music?
Music, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you start off, you're a football kid, you're hanging out in the neighborhood. What happened then to get you toward that?
That's also a good question. Well, there was always music around the house. My father was like an amateur pianist, and my mom was a singer. She actually sang a little bit during World War II in Washington, D.C., which is where my parents met. And my dad, tells a story about seeing her. I think the story was apocryphal, frankly, but that she came out, was rolled out inside a bass drum. She was very, very small, and sang Stormy Weather, and he was smitten.
Oh.
And they liked, to play records, and they dance if the family was home on the weekend. They'd literally roll up the rugs and dance. And my brother and sister and I thought that was amazing.
Yeah.
And my dad loved to go to the orchestra and to the theater too.
Sure.
And that was his real passion, both my parents. But he liked that he had one kid who liked to go down to the Academy of Music and see the Philadelphia Orchestra with him.
That was y'all?
Pardon?
That was you?
That was me, yeah. I was the one of the 3 kids that really liked any kind of music. But then as far as, they came around, they had a sign up for band and orchestra, in 5th grade. And so a bunch of my friends were doing it. So I thought I should do it, more to be like part of the group. And it was like a school activity more, something.
Yeah.
And so I signed up to play saxophone, but the school only had one saxophone. I thought saxophones were really cool. I liked the way they looked and, the keys and everything. And so my really good friend at that time, a kid named Bob Liggett, was going to take drums. And he said, well, why don't you take drums and then we can hang out together? And that's why I picked up the drums. And that same year, I saw the Beatles on TV.
Yeah, man.
And I didn't even really know what a drum set was, really, But I saw Ringo, and I just thought, God, that looked like fun, you know? And I think that was really the start of it, to tell you the truth.
Right on. Oh, yeah. I can see that.
Yeah.
That's just the environment. You're hanging with your lads at school and stuff, and all more natural and sort of chance.
Yeah.
I love it that it's by chance.
Yeah, it really was.
You're thinking about playing saxophone, and then just fate takes you another direction.
Another way, yeah.
Fuck, that's so heavy.
And you must remember too, man. Everybody was getting bands. If you had a guitar, you were in a band, and a set of drums. I didn't have a set for a long time. I just had a snare drum, but but you know, we were always forming bands back then.
Yeah.
You know, there were rock bands everywhere.
When did you first get a chance to sit behind like a kit?
That was a couple years later. I think when I was 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 3 years later, and yeah, my parents saw I was kind of serious about it, and I had a little bit of talent. You know, the band director told him I was pretty good at it, and I know they went and talked to him and asked if, you know, it would be a good idea, and he was nice. You know, he recommended that it wouldn't be the worst thing to get me a set of drums, and I think also they thought it might keep me occupied and, you know, busy off the streets, out of the pool halls, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, seventh grade, and it didn't have a hi-hat. I remember that, and I didn't even know what a hi-hat was. But the next time I saw, I don't know if it was the Beatles, but there was another band. It might even have been like a jazz band on TV, like a big band.
Sure.
And I saw this thing. I was like, well, wait a minute. You know what? So you do something with your other foot too,
Yeah,
right?
You do. Damn.
Yeah. So I remember that was a big present one year. You know, to get the hi-hat pedal.
They laid it on you.
Yeah.
Oh.
So then I had the whole thing, right?
Damn. And plus, that is a nice little bit of candy to have to wait for.
Right.
Because for me, a hi-hat, that sound absolutely destroys me.
Oh, far out. That's
everything
cool.
about that closure, and you can hear the air displaced
Wow.
a little bit. You know, I
Cool.
love that sound.
Well, I remember that tonight while we're playing, man.
Yeah.
I'll give you, there is some magic in the hi-hat. There really is.
It's a crazy contraption.
Papa Joe Jones, man. You could play a whole
Yeah.
orchestra, a whole symphony on the hi-hat.
Yeah, there's so much in there. And I saw Max Roach do a lecture demonstration on the hi-hat.
Yep.
And talking all about his idea of poetry. And that's how he approached his solos.
Max saw the same thing I did, where Papa Joe played a solo thing on the hi-hat at Newport in '73.
Damn.
It was a famous performance. I got to talk to Max about that, and he got excited. You know, he said, "You were there. You saw that."
Yeah.
And he was excited like a little kid.
Yeah.
And I think that's when he started doing that thing.
Dig.
And he called it Papa Joe sometimes, or Mr. Hi-Hat, various names.
Yeah.
And you saw all those moves he had on it, playing on the bottom of it.
Oh,
and,
dude, yeah.
Made it talk.
And it was so creamy, man. I really loved it. And hearing him talk about it was a beautiful thing.
Oh, he was such an articulate guy.
So then, what happens then? So you got a kit. You're maybe getting into bands with some of your lads. Is that kind of what's happening through high school?
Yeah, all through high school, I was always in band. At least one band, sometimes a couple.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually started playing gigs in junior high school, Paul.
What kind of gig?
We would play like teen dances. Yeah. They'd have functions, you know, little halls, you know, in the neighborhood. Sometimes they were like ethnic halls, like the Ukrainian hall, you know, the Polish hall, stuff like that. Sometimes at schools, you know, school dances.
Yep. And
we'd have these little bands that would play for that. And then parks, you know, the like 4th of July. I remember we played in a park a few times.
Wow.
And mostly it was guitar bands, you know, a couple guitars, maybe a bass.
Mm-hmm.
I remember playing with an organ for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
This was later, a little bit later in high school, and that was a sound, you know. That's a big sound in Philadelphia. Organ trios, you know, are everywhere.
Yeah.
And then the kind of R&B, you know, that had that kind of sound to it.
Mm-hmm.
But then came the horn bands.
Oh,
and
Jesus.
That was always like, okay, this is the big time now.
Yeah,
you know, you got a sax and a trombone and a trumpet, and you know, playing all that Motown and Stax stuff.
Yeah.
And Wilson Pickett.
There's nothing like a horn line, man.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Dig.
And then those guys always knew a little bit about jazz.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, I didn't know anything about jazz, man. I loved it. I had records, and my mom had some jazz records, you know. And my brother was 6 years older than me, and he had all the hip rock and roll albums. He had all really good stuff. But modern jazz, I just could not figure out what was going on, but I thought it was a cool sound. I just liked the sound of it, right? And so some of the horn players I was playing in R&B bands would start hipping me to different guys, you know, and Eric Dolphy and Coltrane, and I mean, there's no way I was playing that stuff, but I could pretend, you know.
Yeah, pretending. Man, that's 90%. I swear to God.
I agree.
Yeah, just like that's the playfulness of it.
Right.
And that you're just inside of it, and the fun of that experience is so great. I remember that in a lot of different ways as a kid, like pretending I knew how to write cursive.
Oh, far out.
I would just do it. I'm like, hey, look at that shit. So, how do you get then from there? You're taking a peek into like the jazz bow scene, yeah. But you're not taking the step. How did you take your step into that?
Well, again, man, that's a very good question. I went off to school in Hawaii, at the University of Hawaii. My parents said if I could actually get into college, they'd pay for the first year anywhere.
Goddamn.
And Hawaii had, I didn't know about the school, but they had other attractions.
Did they?
Yeah. Still do, I think. So I just wanted to go out there and, you know, have fun, basically.
Yeah.
And I remember a really odd experience, Paul, that I was in a record store one day. I was going to buy a present for a friend.
This was in Hawaii?
In Hawaii.
Yeah.
And I saw one of those prestige twofer albums came out. This would have been in 1972.
Okay.
I think is when those came out. And I know that's when it was that I was living there then. And it was a picture of Sonny Rollins on the cover. And all of a sudden, I just kind of was transported back to that, you know, magical time when I was playing in bands, because I kind of stopped playing in bands a little bit in Hawaii. Even though the opportunities were there, I don't know why, you know, I just didn't know what to do with myself, really, except have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And the Sonny Rollins picture took me back to, you know, just how much fun that was, you know, being in bands and the jazz part of it specifically, you know, pretending to be in jazz and listening to the records, and just how much I liked that music. And I remember having kind of an epiphany that, man, maybe I could do this. Maybe I should do this.
No shit, you're killing me right now.
It's strange, right?
Yeah.
And in Hawaii, I was thinking about being a music major. You know, I hadn't really decided. This is my freshman year. I was taking everything.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed a couple of a music history class that I took, and also just an introduction to music theory.
Sure.
That I just took to kind of fill out my schedule. And I was enjoying it. And so I thought, well, if I major in music, I can't do it here because they had lost their accreditation. And one of the books that I'd been using on the drums, just again, I had no idea how to do it, but was written by Marv Dahlgren.
Okay.
Called Four-Way Coordination. And it said in the
that's
book,
famous as
yeah,
shit.
It's a really famous book.
Who hipped you to that? Was it just known as the book, or?
Yeah, I don't really know. I think it was someone at a drum store or something must have given it to me or told me I should get it. I don't remember.
All right.
It's a very good question.
Yeah.
But I did have it, and I couldn't really do it, but I knew what it was. And again, it was all fantasy.
Yeah.
I would pretend that I was playing out of this. It made me feel good about myself.
Jesus
So
Christ.
I called the University of Minnesota from
How were you
Hawaii.
calling the U of M though? That's
Because I had friends going to school here.
okay.
And it said in the back of the book that Marv Dahlgren taught at the University of Minnesota.
Yeah.
And so I thought, maybe I should, just on a whim,
Yeah, man.
see if I could. So I called and I said I was a student at the University of Hawaii, and I was interested in, could they send me some material?
Yeah.
And specifically, I was a percussionist, you know, lying my ass off, you know, but send me some material about Marv Dahlgren. And the music department secretary said, well, Marv is right here. Do you want to talk to him? And I kind of, what? No? Yeah, sure, you know. And so he got on the phone, and he was so friendly and nice and everything.
Yeah.
basically talked me into it.
Fuck yeah.
And so I came here, and I've been here since '74, and every winter I wonder why I ever left Hawaii.
There's a lot
like
of distance.
This winter,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
This one takes you another million miles
You
from Hawaii.
bet. But when I came back here, Paul, I fell back into playing. And then I resumed like my rock and roll thing, and I got in a couple of bands that I could make money at.
This is around what year?
This is 74,
Okay.
75, so just about all through the 70s. And that's really how I paid for college, was playing in bands.
Okay.
Also, I was a janitor at the airport, and then at a shopping center, too, Rosedale. And the janitorial work I didn't mind, but after a while I was like, man, I'd rather just play drums. I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
And I was taking lessons. I couldn't, as it turned out, I could not pass the audition to study with Marv. And he suggested I take a year and study with his partner, Floyd Thompson. They had a drum shop together.
Okay.
And I learned a lot from Floyd. He's a great teacher. A lot of guys study with Floyd.
All right.
And that prepared me for Marv and for everything else. I still use a lot of what I learned from Floyd in my teaching.
Damn right.
And through Floyd, actually, I started meeting the older, like, jobbing guys around Minneapolis. And so he would recommend me for a polka gig, or just a country club gig with the older, like.
That's so good.
Yeah,
That's
it was
such
great.
a beautiful hookup to
It was.
help someone become a musician.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so through that, and the guys I met at the U of M, like Pat Moriarty and Anthony Cox, and
Yep. All right.
Guys that were much, Pat especially, was much more advanced than I was. He actually knew what chords were, and things like that. Yeah. And so I started playing with some of them, and then these older guys too, and little by little I started to kind of learn how to, keep this going and that going, and then study with Floyd and then Marv, and it just kind of snowballed from there.
Well, Jesus, man, because I remember seeing you in the 70s with Ed Berger.
Yeah, 79 I started
at the
with
Artist
him.
Quarter. And because I was living pretty close to there, and my memory is not good, but I swear you guys had like a Tuesday or a Wednesday night steady.
Artist Quarter was Sunday night.
Sunday night.
And Williams Pub was Tuesday night.
Yep, all right.
So we had 2 nights a week.
Yeah, and I would check you guys because, how did you get in that combo? How did that form as like something?
I think Ed was well established.
Yeah.
Everybody knew who Eddie Berger was.
Yeah.
And his drummer was Gene Piccolo at the time. Do you remember Gene?
I don't remember Gene.
Big guy. And Tom Hubbard had started playing bass with him. And Tom and I were friends. We hadn't played a lot together, but a little bit. And Tom recommended me when Gene had to go in the hospital.
Goddamn.
And Ed was really not too sure about that. He saw me as more like a free guy that could only do that.
Yeah.
And plus I had really long hair, and I didn't look like a jazz musician. But Tom talked him into it.
No kidding.
And so I played New Year's Eve, 1979, with Ed and at Williams Pub. And so that was my audition. Bobby Peterson was on piano.
Okay.
And I passed the audition. I did a good enough job that he kind of took me on, and that's when it really took off.
What he was doing, like the bebop canon.
Right.
And he liked all that structure of like trading fours, and like it was all really. And how did you step into that? Like, it's such a regimented way to improvise.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, man, what the hell?
Well,
you have
I
a
had
crazy
to do it.
history.
I know, right?
That's crazy. Yeah.
But I wanted to play with Ed, because he had the best gig.
Are you kidding?
Right? A steady 2-night gig playing bebop.
Yeah.
And so I just studied real hard, right?
Yeah.
And I'd been playing. Oh, I know one thing I left out. Back then, you remember, there were a lot of singers gigs.
Yeah.
And so I was playing with a lot of different singers and learning the Great American Songbook.
Oh, dig.
from
Okay.
from those. You know, they weren't necessarily great singers. Some of them were really good. Prudence Johnson
Oh,
and
please.
Carol
Beautiful.
Martin. You know that,
Mm-hmm.
but there were a lot of those gigs, and you could
Mm-hmm.
play 6 nights a week.
Yeah.
Backing up singers back then, the Radisson hotels all
Yep.
had music
Yep.
6 nights a week, and it was like, in a funny way, I never thought of this actually until this very minute, but it was a little bit like the old rock and roll days where there were so many gigs that even guys like me that couldn't play too well would get a chance, and I wanted it, you know, so I worked really hard. I've always put in the hours. I've always practiced.
Well, God, I mean, I remember seeing you, not to be like too hardcore of a fanboy, but I remember seeing you at the Artist Quarter in Williams Pub, and you had such a nice touch.
Oh, thank you.
And such a, it was such, you were in such a natural space within the strict, what I would view as a real strict structure, you know, like.
It is a strict structure.
Yeah, and I could tell, you know, Ed was fucking into it, and it being that. And I'm so surprised that was like something that you flowed into.
Yeah.
You flowed into
That's
that.
weird, right?
That's crazy.
But that is, you know, it seems like that's how it went, you know?
So that brings you like in like 1980s and stuff, and then I think we're getting close to time to maybe set up.
Oh, sure, okay.
So we'll just kind of fast forward into tonight. You're at the Khyber Pass Cafe.
Yes, playing with you.
Yeah, and you've been here. We had you solo one time.
That was a fun gig. I really enjoyed
I dug
that.
that. Yeah, and what I really liked about it is that as much of a old, like, fucking warhorse of gigging that you've done, you were a little nervous to go solo.
Uh-huh. It's the only time I've
loved
ever
that.
done it since. Still.
I loved it that you felt that. You know what I mean? Like, because it is unusual. We've had other people play here solo kind of for the first time. And I like to book drummers to do that. And so we had you there, and then a couple other times I got to play with you another time. It was real dreamy for me. And so I guess in closing, just to get some of your ideas about improvisation behind a drum kit for you when you're given, like that night when it was just solo, or even within the structure of Ed Berger's combo, or anything in between. Like, how do you view it, and what helps you get there?
Well, I don't know, that a lot of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I always try to honor the tradition, you know? I mean, I know what music has done for me. I owe a debt, a real serious debt. It saved my life. So every time I sit down to play, I try to remember that. Yeah. And to think, like, you know, of all the people who have made it possible for me to be here, I try to play for them.
God damn.
And, and that kind of keeps me going.
Mm-hmm.
And drums is a real serious business, man. Playing this instrument, you know, there's a real tradition to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a deep, you know, we play with all 4 limbs. Yeah. And sometimes you can approach it like, you know, each instrument and each of your limbs is another person almost, you know. So here's the right hand and the left hand and the, you know, the feet, and we're bringing them in and out, you know, and the sounds that they're producing, you know, the hi-hat, all that kind of thing. And it's almost like a group inside yourself.
Yeah.
And so I try to, you know, make sure everybody's balanced, you know, that all the limbs are equal, you know, that it's democratic. and that hopefully carries over into the group, and vice versa.
Sure.
That I can hear everybody, and that that I'm there with everybody, and catching what's going on, feeling everyone's time feel, and hopefully when it works, I'm able to play with whoever is there, and we're able to create something, right on the moment, real time composition. We're going to create music right now. And when it works, it's the best feeling
There's
in the world.
There's nothing like it.
Right?
Man, Phil, I'm telling you, that's like there's nothing like it.
I've never found anything like
the closest that I've come is in just kind of reading stuff about people and their ideas is like religious stuff. Sufism talks about things that I can relate to with what I do musically.
That makes sense.
And like heavy stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
It would have to be that heavy. I agree.
Yeah, that's where it's been. Well, Phil, I can't thank you enough for taking time.
Oh, thank you, Paul. I'm
it's
flattered.
It's great talking to you.
Okay, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, man. So now we'll go play.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
all right.
That's the easy part. Phil Hay. He sat down to talk about his history, his development, elucidating the early years in Philadelphia. Through Hawaii. Then on to Minnesota, where the Twin Cities was lucky enough to have him decide to make that his home. It was great to sit and talk with him. I followed his work since 1979, off and on. I hope that you enjoyed it and that you found it as inspirational as I did. I'm your host, Paul Metzger, and I thank you so much for listening to this week's Khyber Pass podcast, as always brought to you by the Khyber Pass Cafe on Grand Avenue in St. Paul. Until next time, good night.